What's up guys, my name is Ryan and I recently returned from exploring the incredible region of Patagonia and I want to share with you my favorite places and experiences, so here's my Patagonia Top 10. Located in the bottom halves of both Chile and Argentina, Patagonia is one of the most beautiful regions on Earth. It's home to some of the world's most stunning mountains, massive glaciers, and incredible wildlife. From the jagged peaks of Fitz Roy to glacier-filled fjords, Patagonia will leave you in awe with its endless beauty. Me and my wife spent a few weeks exploring the wonders of Patagonia, and I can't wait to share this video with you. To get to Patagonia, we flew to the town of Punta Arenas in Chile, picked up our rental car, and started our Patagonia adventure. The first place we visited was Torres del Paine. I'd say this is one of the most famous places in Chile and Patagonia. It was about a 4-hour drive to get there, and when we arrived, I couldn't believe the beauty of this place. We checked into our hotel just outside the park, and we had an incredible view of the Los Cuernos Mountains. They are seriously some of the most incredible mountains I've ever came across. The next day, we drove inside the national park. It was $55 a person for a 3-day pass. My favorite place was the area around Lake Pejoe, and it has this striking blue color. The day we were there, the wind was blowing so hard it was creating waves along the lake. As you're driving along, there are a few places you could stop. There was this one lookout we hiked up to, and it gave an incredible view of Los Cuernos Mountains. The wind here was just unbelievable. As you keep driving down the road, there's this island that is connected by a bridge that you could also walk on, and it offers amazing views of the lake in Los Cuernos. I mean, this area is just absolutely amazing. Now, one of the main reasons people come to the area is to do the hike to Mirador Base Las Torres. It's one of the most popular hikes in all of Patagonia. It's about a 12.5 mile round trip trek with about 3,000 feet of elevation gain. We started around 8 a.m. and I definitely recommend starting this hike no later than 11 because the last section to the lake closes at 3 and it takes about 4 hours to get there. Anyways, the first bit was a flat walk until we reached the incline of the mountain. Once we got to the top of that section, it was a beautiful view into the valley. About halfway, we came to the Chilean Refugio. This is where people can get something to eat or spend the night. We kept going, and after about 3 hours, we got to the hardest section of the trek. It's an uphill scramble, and it was a challenge, but once you reach the top, you're rewarded with one of the most incredible views of the Torres Mountains. We spent a good hour just enjoying the view and also recovering from the hard hike. I mean, there's very few places as epic as this. After we headed back down, and the whole trek took us 8 hours to do, I have to say it's one of the hardest day hikes I've ever done in my life, but well worth it. After, we're going to search for Patagonia's most elusive animal, the puma. One thing special about this area in Chile is that it's one of the best places in the world to see pumas. If you're lucky, you might see one in the Torres del Paine National Park, but we did an expedition with Leon Amarga, which takes place on the private land right outside of Torres del Paine, and it was one of the craziest wildlife experiences I've ever had. We started at 5 a.m. and headed off to find the pumas. A guide had spotted one, so once we got close, we started hiking in that direction, and after a few minutes, we came across this puma just perfectly perched on a hill. As I was filming it, it started walking towards us, and the guy told us not to move, and it just walked right past us. I mean, it was an absolute adrenaline rush. We filmed the gray puma for a bit, and then this other brown one came out of nowhere, and they got in a little fight. After it found a nice place to rest under the rock, we came across some more pumas and got some incredible shots of them with the surrounding landscapes. The main prey of the puma is guanacos, which are these large llama-like creatures, which we also saw a good amount of. Towards the end, we got really lucky and found a mother mountain lion with her cub, and were able to film them for a few minutes until they headed off. I mean, it was an absolute incredible experience, and our guide said that we were extremely lucky that day because sometimes you might only see one or none at all, so I'm super thankful we saw a bunch of pumas. I will say it was very expensive, but it's 100% worth it to see pumas in the wild. Afterwards, we're going to head to Argentina to visit El Chaltén. Located about a 6-hour drive from Torres del Paine, El Chaltén is this isolated mountain village, and I'd say it's the hiking capital of Patagonia. As you drive into Chaltén, you have the iconic view of Fitz Roy Mountain, and it's just beyond epic. We spent several days here, and I really enjoyed it. The vibes of El Chaltén are amazing. Now, the main reason we came here was to do the hike to Laguna de los Tres. It's a nearly 14-mile hike with an elevation gain of 3,454 feet. We started early, and it cost about $45 a person to enter the national park. The first section of the trail is uphill for about an hour, and the scenery is just spectacular. Once you get to the top part, you get your first views of Mount Fitz Roy. The day we did it, it was cloudy and rainy in the morning, and we couldn't see the Fitz Roy peak, so I was just praying so that we could have some clear weather when we got to the top. The next section of the hike was my favorite. It was pretty flat, and you walk through spectacular nature. It was honestly one of the most beautiful places I've been, and it's pure nature that's basically untouched aside from the trail. As we were getting closer to Fitz Roy, the clouds around the mountain started to clear, which boosted my morale because the last section of the hike is absolutely brutal. Similar to the Laguna Torre hike, it was an uphill scramble that took us about an hour to complete. As we got near the top, the wind was absolutely insane, but the skies were clear and we could see all of Fitz Roy, so we were just so excited. We climbed over the last ridge and finally got a view of the lake at the base of Fitz Roy, and it's easily one of the most incredible views I've ever experienced in my life. And I just couldn't believe this place. There's perfectly blue water, contrasted with the icy, jagged peaks of Fitz Roy. I don't think there are any mountains more perfect than here. We spent some time on the lake and I just enjoyed walking along the shore. We then hiked up to this lookout point and it gave an astounding view of Laguna de los Tres and Laguna Suiza. We stayed up here for a good hour, and right when we started to leave, clouds began to cover the Fitz Roy again, and I feel extremely fortunate to have some great weather while we were up there. I mean, I would feel so bad if we did all that work only to have the Fitz Roy covered by clouds. So make sure when you do it that you have a good weather forecast. The hike back wasn't too bad, and we made a few pit stops along the river. In total, it took us about 8 hours to do the hike. This was definitely my favorite thing we did during our time in Patagonia. Another popular hike you can do while you're in Chaltén is Laguna Torre. It's about a 13-mile round-trip trek, and it takes you to this beautiful lake that gives you an incredible view of the Cerro Torre peak. After, we're going to visit El Calafate. It's located about 2.5 hours drive from El Chaltén, and it's a fairly large city on Lago Argentina. There's also an airport here, and it's a great place to access Argentina's Patagonian region. On the drive to El Calafate, I came across so many guanacos. They are one of the most common animals in Patagonia, and there's literally just thousands of them. They're one of the biggest animals in South America, and they can be a little dangerous because they often cross the roads, so you gotta be extra cautious while you drive. Anyways, the main reason we came here was to visit the nearby Perito Moreno Glacier. It's located about an hour-and-a-half drive from El Calafate, and I have to say it's one of the most impressive glaciers I've ever seen. When we got there, we walked on the pathways that take you up to viewpoints of the glacier. There were some boats taking tours to get people close to the glacier, and it's something I would like to do next time. Anyways, I just love looking at the glacier and marveling at its size. The ice walls have an average height of 210 feet. Occasionally, pieces of ice would fall off the glacier and it would make the loudest sounds, and if you're lucky, you might see a giant piece of ice fall into the lake. While we're still in Argentina, we're going to head to Bariloche. Located in the northern region of Patagonia, Bariloche is this incredible city built on a lake. It reminds me of a city you would expect to find in Switzerland. The scenery here is so serene and beautiful. It's a great place to come in the summer to enjoy Argentina's Lake District. It's also a great place to come in the winters to ski. I really like the nearby mountains of Cerro Catedral. They are so jagged and unique looking, especially during autumn when the vegetation turns a strikingly color. After, we're going to head back to Chile to visit the Marble Caves, located on the turquoise waters of Lago General Carrera. The Marble Caves are some of the most fascinating geological features of Patagonia. It's these massive rocks of marble that have been sculpted by the wind and waves of the lake for thousands of years. The best way to experience the caves is by boat, and you can also take a kayak tour from the nearby town of Puerto Rio Tranquilo. Afterwards, we're going to head to the Fjords of Patagonia. If you look at Patagonia from space, you can see this huge uninhabited region on Chile's side, and it's home to some of the most unbelievable and untouched scenery on Earth. The Chilean fjords are extremely remote, and there are no roads or airports, and the only way to reach the fjords is by taking a boat. Special thanks to my buddy Victor Poznov. He spent a good amount of time sailing throughout Chile's fjords and captured some of the most incredible footage. I'll link a video of his adventure in the description below. One of my favorite features of Patagonia's fjords is the glaciers. There are so many named and unnamed glaciers that very few have seen. I'd say the best way to experience the fjords is by taking an expedition cruise that is specialized in exploring this region of the world. There are very few places that are raw and as beautiful as the fjords of Patagonia. After, we're going to head to Tierra del Fuego. Located in both Chile and Argentina, Tierra del Fuego is an archipelago, and it's the most southern part of South America. Aside from Antarctica and a few islands, it's the most southern place you can go in the world. It's got its name because early explorers reported seeing bonfires along the coast from the natives. The main reason I wanted to go to Tierra del Fuego was to visit Ushuaia. It's the capital of Tierra del Fuego, and it's a fairly large city with a population over 80,000 people. It's where most ships start their journey to Antarctica. Now to get there, there are a few options. You can fly from Buenos Aires or El Calafate, or also take a bus. We had a car, and I thought the road trip would be fun. So from El Calafate, we made the long drive. We had to cross the Chile-Argentine border twice, and then we had to take a ferry that took us over the Strait of Magellan. After, it was a beautiful drive, and as we got closer to Ushuaia, the scenery got more and more epic. There were tons of guanacos, and the trees and vegetation were just so peculiar. Once you get to the mountains near Ushuaia, that's when the scenery gets unbelievable. There was this massive lake called Lago Fanano, and it looked like an ocean. I mean, I'm so happy we did the drive in. The roads and scenery were spectacular. When we got to Ushuaia, we spent about 3 days there. One fun thing you can do in Ushuaia is go on a boat tour to experience the surrounding scenery. We did a 5-hour tour, and first we stopped at this lighthouse, which was built on this rock island in 1920, and it's home to a lot of birds. Afterwards, we sailed down the Beagle Channel until we got to Isla Martillo. This island is famous because it's home to thousands of penguins. I believe some boat tours are able to walk the island, but ours was fairly huge and we could only observe the penguins from the boat, but it was definitely a highlight of the tour. Another one of the main reasons I wanted to go to Ushuaia was to do the hike to Laguna Esmeralda. It's a 5.4 mile round trip trek, and it's a lot easier than the other hikes mentioned in this video. The start of the trail is about a 30-minute drive outside of Ushuaia, and it begins in this forest, and after a bit you come to this clearing and get to see some of Tierra del Fuego's raw nature. Afterwards, it was an uphill climb, and we walked along this beautiful river. After about an hour of walking, we made it to the lake. I was just amazed by the view. It was this milky blue color sandwiched between the mountains of Tierra del Fuego. The wind was blowing the clouds so fast, which would change the lake's color from light to dark. Overall, I think Laguna Esmeralda is one of the most beautiful and easy day hikes in Ushuaia. One more place you can visit in the area is Tierra del Fuego National Park. It's about a 20-minute drive from the city, and it's a beautiful, pristine area, and if you drive on the road, it takes you to basically the most southern point you can drive in the world, called Bahia La Pataya. It marks the end of the Pan-American Highway, which starts in Alaska and ends here. I mean, I enjoyed walking around the park. It was just so serene and peaceful. I mean, Tierra del Fuego is amazing. Well, that is it for my Patagonia Top 10. It turned out to be one of my favorite places I've ever been, and I hope you can visit here too. Let me know where your favorite place is in Patagonia in the comments below. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at shirley.films. It's Ryan, and we will see you later.